Hello, and welcome to Antonia's Promise podcast. Do you believe in miracles? Well, then I have a story for you. Antonia's Promise podcast is a true story and testimony filled with miracles, healings, love, and hope. On February 10, 2019, I prayed for a miracle with my rosary wrapped tight around my hand and a picture of Jesus by my side. I prayed that if God granted me my miracle, then I promised that I would speak love and light as a vessel for Him. On February 11, 2019, the day of the sick feast of Lady of Lourdes, I received my miracle. I'd love to invite guest speakers on my podcast to share their stories of miracles, healings, and hope, and how God has created and granted miracles in their life. Join me and others as we bring love and light to listeners everywhere. Hello, my name is Antonia Tomeo, and I am the creator of Antonia's Promise podcast. Today, I would like to introduce two very special guests, Laurie and Keven Lane. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Keven and Laurie.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I know that, we had met several years ago through Lisa Ascalise, the inventress. And, I remember seeing your journey and all of the things that you have done to get to this point. Antonia's Promise is really near and dear to me now that I've come and embarked on this journey, which I didn't think would ever get to this point, right? But it's a true story of healings and miracles through Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary for me. And it was on February 10th, 2019 that I had made God a promise that if He had given me a miracle, that I would spread love and light as a vessel for Him. And on February 11th, I received that miracle. And I'm here to continue to spread love and light as a vessel for Him, and also invite guest speakers on to share their story about how God has created miracles in their life and what He's done for them. And I know that in meeting the both of you, we've connected so many times on that. So tell me, what is your story and how God has created miracles in your life?
Start. You want me to start?
Yeah, you start. You're better than
me. I mean, it's so many different ways that He's kind of shown us. I mean, it starts from when Keven was a little boy and, 10 years old, was drawing pictures of castles, and, it's kind of always been in the back of his mind. And I feel like God puts you in these positions, whether you know it or not, that He has, and here he is watching, at 10 years old, watching his mom and grandmother bake cakes and split their pans apart and draw his castles. And then lo and behold, 40 something years later, he gets this idea. And when he puts it to paper and we actually have it, his mom pulls out a picture and says, Keven drew this castle. And it looks like the product from when he was 10 years old. So, to me, that's okay. You always, you never know what a child remembers. And it's always, like Keven always says, play is important and all those memories, but also, that God has a hand in that 100%, kind of that guiding where, again, you don't always know it at the time, but I really, truly believe that He puts you on a path and it's up to you to keep on that path. Mm-hmm. But I can feel like He guides you. Don't you think, Kev? I mean, that's kind of how it started.
100%, and it's a testament every single time. So right now, Laurie's in Connecticut and are at home, and I'm in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. Just so everybody, all your listeners know, we recently landed a deal with Disney Cruise Lines where we're the first ever sandcastle excursion for any major cruise line. And so I've been out here for 3 weeks now, Laura? And what I do is I go to various beaches over and over, and I put myself into a position of uncomfort, I guess I could say. And what I mean by that is, obviously, I'm very comfortable using my product now, but I'm out here on an island by myself. I really don't know anybody. And I'm meeting all of these strangers as I'm doing this. And there's one common denominator every single time that I do this. And it's smiles and happiness, right? When I do this, I basically time it so that when, you know, boats pull into the port here, there's sometimes 3 boats or sometimes 5 boats. Doesn't really matter. The busier it is, the better it is, because that's just more people for me to bring happiness to. And that's through the power of God, essentially. You know, it goes back to what Laurie said, from the seed planted when I was a child, all the way to this point where, you know, going to a simple thing like going to a beach and demonstrating and giving these quick 5-minute lessons to people, it transforms their lives and it transforms mine. So it's a powerful position to be in.
That's really cool. I mean, the fact that I was able to connect with the both of you, that, you know, the power of technology nowadays, that I can look at you both and, you know, Keven, you're in a different location than your wife, but you're able to come together today and talk about God and the miracles, right, that he has put on your heart and in your life. But to Laurie's point, she mentioned that God put this idea in your head. And I can understand that because the creation of my cross was put in my mind and I was compelled to do it. So, can you talk to me a little bit about that idea being put in your head from a young child and how that was brought to fruition? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Laurie said, you know, I grew up in a bakery, and my mom quickly realized, you know, I'm a twin and I
Mhm.
also have an older brother. So she quickly realized what our passions were. My twin brother was building things with blocks. My older brother was sports nonstop, 24/7. And I was art and drawing.
Mhm.
And she used to give me these books called Draw 50 that taught me how to basically draw these castles and other buildings and structures step by step.
Mhm.
And while I was doing that, I was watching them bake their cakes with, you know, their springform pans and different things. And then you fast forward 40 years to the point where we're visiting Laurie's family out in Laguna Beach, California. And I see a dad and son struggling with a traditional flip mold where everybody fills it, flips it, lifts it. And sometimes they work, even if they do work perfect, they're really not all that exciting.
Mhm.
So that's when the idea really kind of hit me. And I was like, whoa, like, wait a minute, these guys want to do what I'm doing. They just don't, it takes a long time, right? Like it's a process. It's years of devotion. It's kind of like faith. It's years of devotion and shedding and believing in something that, you know, you really are passionate about.
Right.
That's when I said, holy cow, we can literally just magnify this whole process by having buckets that split apart instead of lifting. And that's that night I went home and I started searching with Laura, you know, on the internet. And we kind of made a pact that she's my best partner ever because she has believed in this from day one. And without
Mhm.
having her believe in me and vice versa, you know, this is a two-way street. You gotta have faith in one another and push through the hard times.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful, and I thank you for sharing that, right? Like, I've seen the both of you through this journey. I want to say we met about 6 years ago. Um, and I remember when I first met you, I was just so in awe of your relationship with your wife and the support that went behind it and the love and the proudness and you know, just in speaking engagements and coming to FAO Schwartz when you guys were at FOA Schwartz and your toys with on the shelf and just the look in your wife's eyes. I mean, you know, you know, there's a reason why you're both on the show today because this success goes to the both of you. And I do believe that when God introduces you to your mate, he's introducing you to, you know, the perfect person for you. Right. And I've seen you both grow so beautifully. And, you know, I've always seen your wife and she's been very, very proud. Lori, what would you say has been the hardest part for you with your husband being now in a different location than you, but knowing that fate is what brought him there?
I mean, at this point, we're so, like my day to day is busy, you know, and so I'm here doing the normal. It's probably harder for him because he's in the strange place. He's alone like that. I have our 2 kids are now home from college, so they're helping me with the business up here and doing orders and that kind of stuff. So, you know, my day to day by days go by very quickly, like trying to get everything done. So And I mean, I don't know. I mean, all these years we've kind of just done whatever we've needed to do to kind of keep pushing forward. And every time we pivot, there's, new challenges, and we went through a pandemic, and,
Right.
economy, like so many different things have happened where we're kind of like, okay, now what do we do? And we just, yeah,
Keep
turn
pushing.
the corner and just do something else. You know what I mean? It's like never ending, like trying to figure out what to do. So,
Mhm.
To
we have
Lori's point, but to Lori's point, I want to jump in here real quick. I feel like when you think one door closes, it's true, another one opens, right? So
Yeah.
like everybody thinks because we were on Shark Tank, that was like the holy grail, right? Well, here I am now in St. Thomas with a brand new door that just opened to expose our brand to people who were going to pay us through Disney Cruise Lines to come off a boat. So did we ever think something like this would happen, Lori, in a million years?
No, but we're starting from square one again. You know what I mean? So it's like people think, and maybe some companies like blow up and then they keep skyrocketing or whatever. But the majority of people that we know and entrepreneurs, if you start something, a new part of your business, you got to start it again. You know what I mean? So it's like, and we have the background of Shark Tank and the support from the people that we've met there and everything. But it's still, starting a new leg of your business. So
Yeah.
it's just hard.
Yeah. One other thing I want to point out, Kevin, you said something in the beginning that really resonates with me. You said, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just here and I'm going through the motions, and I can relate to that. Antonia's podcast was introduced to me. I started my brand. I started with a story. I had nothing but a story and not lots of love and passion, which is what you said. And from there, I created, a wooden piece of jewelry with a symbol in it of a person bent over, broken in prayer. Only spoke about it, brought that to fruition. Then that went to relaunching the line with products of t-shirts, mugs. I sent a mug to you guys, right? You guys have my mug. And just, that, and now I'm here. And same thing. What am I doing here? Am I doing the right thing? Okay, but if God opens that door, which is what you said, I'm going to walk through it. And to me, that's blind faith. You are walking in your faith. And I commend the both of you today for being here, for listening to God, for walking in your faith, for not questioning and just trusting. And as I say that, I have the chills because I think that's what God really wants, right? He wants us to just trust him blindly. And okay, it's all right to not know. It's okay to question. But at the end of the day, we're going to do it because we know that it's going to work out. It's going to be okay. And it's only going to get better. Right. And that's what God does. So, I loved your story. I think it's such a beautiful, powerful story. And to have a spouse, and I equally am just as lucky. I also have a husband who very much so supports me in my mission and what it is that I'm doing. And, it makes me proud, very, very proud to have you guys on the show today. And I thank you so much for being here. Is there a question that you would like to ask me?
Yeah. So where did your whole idea of when you say you had that miracle, and, I don't know how personal you want to get or anything, but kind of what did God say to you? How did you know you wanted to start your journey to give back when you said you had a miracle and so forth?
So when I received my rosary in church, and it took me through my prayer life, and then I was introduced to prayer women. And the day that I made my promise, a Jewish woman that had seen her mother struggling had seen me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Maybe, before you go to bed tonight, you make God a promise." And I said, "A promise? I don't understand."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well," and that's the night I said, "God," I said, "please help me and take away what I'm going through and grant me a miracle. And if you do so, I will spread love and light for you." God granted me that miracle the next day on February 11th, Lady of Lourdes, Day of the Sick. That promise is my word. It's what I keep. It's what I know. I can't you know, it's a constant reminder for me, but it's also a constant pull. You know, now that I know Christ and I know God, I want to do nothing else but to spread his love. And, you know, to your question, I I can't stop now that I know him. I can't.
Oh, that's great. That's just great because we need more of that today, especially today in today's world.
Yeah.
Where you need more of that faith and that guidance and the positivity and
Right.
just people knowing there's so many people out there that don't have support and don't have
No.
anybody there for them. And it's important to know that there are people there that can listen, you know, or just pray yourself. But
Yes. And there's so many people I'm learning that love to share their stories about how God has created miracles in their lives and healed them and, you know, brought them, whether it's in entrepreneurship, motherhood, you know, being a daughter, in any walk of life, and how God has created those miracles. And I think that this is the right time for all of that to happen. And I think there's only going to be a lot more people wanting to share all of the goodness of God and how he's done those things and put those seeds in their head and planted those beautiful gifts. And, you know, we have a choice, right? We always have a choice on whether or not we want to follow and do, but it's definitely worth it.
well, it's funny, something, you know, talking about how we met you and everything, definitely God had a hand in how
Yes.
all got connected anyways, right, Kevin?
Sure.
So we were
Well,
at a sandcastle event we were going to in Atlantic City. This was like 2018, right at the beginning, 2019. And we went to build on the beach. It was just us and our friends that we were with, and Tracy and Chelsea. We were just building, and two people walked by on the beach that night. That was it. Nobody else.
Wow.
One of the people that walked by was Kenya and her husband.
Yep.
Happened to be there on vacation, and Kenya is associated with the Gear Hearts and iHeartRadio. Kenya stopped, asked us what we were doing, Kevin told her his whole story, and she goes, "Oh, I do a podcast for entrepreneurs." We're like, "Really?" Like, I mean, what are the chances that's the only other person besides two kids that walked by?
Mhm.
So she connected us with Richard and Richard and Elizabeth, and they connected us with Lisa Askelise, who connected us with you.
Yeah.
So it's like if we hadn't have gone to the beach that night and built in at dusk just for fun.
Oh, I was going to say, what brought you to the beach at midnight?
It wasn't midnight, but it was at dusk. Just because he likes to try every beach.
I was practicing the sand before we went the
at
next
the
day.
right time, at the right place.
Yeah.
And there are no coincidences.
No.
Zero.
So that's how we met Lisa, you know?
And that all goes back to what I was saying before, putting myself out there, right? Like, this is something bigger than just me and Laurie. This is a calling.
Yes.
And if you don't put yourself out there, God will not give you, he's not going to make the opportunities come to you. You have to go to them.
I help those who help themselves.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, there's some days where we're like, "Oh my God, why? You know, why is this happening? What is going on?"
all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
That leads me, I actually have a question for you too, Antonia.
Okay.
So I think I may know the answer to this already, but how do you keep, because you seem very strong in faith, how do you keep your faith so strong even through the hard times?
It's blind. It's effortless. I can't do it any other way. I take myself to church all day long. He's never failed me, ever, 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 and he never will. But he builds me up. He gives me strength. I pray for everything I need, and he gives it to me. And by doing this right now, I'm only getting stronger. I'm only learning more because you're telling me your secrets and I'm understanding them. And other people, and we're going to just talk and talk, and that's going to just create so much more faith, right? But my faith is very strong because God has never let me down, never once. And if I go back to my childhood, even when I didn't have this faith, he never let me down then. And every single thing that I had to walk through or go through in my life, I had to, but I've also learned lessons from. And God keeps teaching me and I keep listening. But I choose him and I choose him first. And I put him first and he puts me first, and together we walk.
Well, they always say blind faith is like going down the staircase when you cannot see the bottom of the stairs, but keep going. And that's what we always say when we started this whole thing. We were like at the top of this huge staircase, could not see the bottom. And do you go down or do you not? So
that's why he's in that location, which is Keven. Where are you?
I'm in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands.
And you're there by blind faith. And
right.
I am at a studio recording an Antonia's Promise podcast by blind faith.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here today, guys. I really enjoyed having you on the show. I can't wait to see what else you get to do. And maybe I'll bring my kids on that Disney cruise and get to build a sandcastle with you guys. That would be a lot of fun.
You don't have to do the cruise. You can just come here.
That's even better. So for sure, my little one would love that. Thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed having you, and I can't wait to hear what comes next.
Thank you. Thanks,
Antonia.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
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 So you just finished listening to Keven and Laurie Lane. What a spectacular couple. A couple that loves and supports each other. One of the things I took from this podcast that really resonated with me was that Keven said that God put this in his imagination. Wow. I can actually say that I understand that, because I felt like God put the cross in my imagination of the person bent over, broken in prayer on its knees. So I commend you, Keven, for taking what God put in your imagination and turning it into an actual product. I wish you both endless success. And I pray that people who are listening everywhere are inspired by this message. So if God put something in your imagination, go for it. Please visit antoniaspromise.com today for more information and to learn more about my true story of healing and miracles through faith and in Jesus Christ.